welcome to the first Friday in July. We've now done into the second half of the year, would you believe it? We're past the longest day. We're heading back towards winter, but don't let that depress you. Sunny at the moment. So welcome to our first Friday. For those that are here live, I think most people who are here live in the room have been before, or for those watching afterwards, the way that First Friday works is that it's on the first Friday for an hour, 1 till 2 p.m. And during that time, Hannah and I will chat about a topic for around about half an hour. Those in the space, we will then have a bit of a discussion, answer questions afterwards, and then, of course, post a video along with slides and resources afterwards as well. So that's the normal format. And today we're going to continue our series of looking at social media. And of the moment, at some point, we will get on to sort of hot topics of the day, with Threads being the big thing at the moment. So as Hannah's just gone through the slides there, yes, I'm Michael O, for those that don't know, and Hannah Fleming Hill as well, a digital missioner and comms consultant. And I work as part of specialist teams in the Baptist Union. So welcome. And just before we sort of get onto the sort of the social media and advanced topic for today, just a little reminder of sort of why we're sort of doing these sort of First Fridays. Where Hannah and I are really passionate around church communications and helping churches really understand the importance of them, the priority of making sure that how you present yourself as a church really does help people. And certainly if we believe that God's at work in everybody's life, that we want to be there, that when they feel a prompt to join a community or to explore that still small voice, is that these days people will look in a variety of different ways, and people need to find you. And that is why public communications is so important, and it's very inclusive. It's the first step of mission and evangelism, and it's something that, regardless of age and ability, people contribute and can help with. So we're really passionate about that. And though we're looking today more at sort of digital comms, I'm very much holistic. It's that whole thing of how people find you, the various comms channels, to that sort of first time somebody arrives to you at church. What are those impressions? How are you communicating? It's always, what is those first impressions? Those first impressions really count. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Hannah now, and we're going to continue our social media, and we're going to sort of slightly more advanced things, but again, not trying to go too difficult, but to try and just give you a flavour of the landscape, which will help you as you look at social media. Thanks, Hannah.
Oh, super. I realised actually I was so excited about putting the screenshots in, but I haven't done sort of an intro to what it is. So we're just going to dive straight in. We're going to look at analytics for what we're looking at: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To be honest, once you've kind of got an idea for what you're looking at on one platform, you kind of will understand on the other platforms, but finding them can be sometimes half the battle, more than understanding them, because with changes over the years, Facebook has changed sort of where they put stuff, and it sort of is a little bit complicated finding. But generally, navigating around it, or sort of just getting your head around it, for what we're generally looking at, we're not trying to kind of optimize sales or sort of push for sort of consumer connection or something like that. I think it's really important for us as churches or associations, or sort of even as individuals, of just knowing kind of what content to create. It is important to sort of have an idea of what's going on with your analytics, but not to kind of like dwell too much on them, and not to stress out, oh my gosh, this post did really well, but everything else since has been terrible. And I had someone say to me, probably the summer of 2021, he was reflecting on his Easter analytics for 21 compared to Easter from 2020. Said, yeah, but Easter 2020 was really good. It was like thousands of hits from all over the world and stuff like that. And then 21, it's not been as good, even though we've upped our social media game. And so I said, actually, you need to factor in other elements. Like actually at 2020, we were in the sort of the height of the beginning of the pandemic. Loads of people weren't being able to go to church at all. And there suddenly was this sort of rush to go and experience something spiritual around this time. And so, yes, everyone's Easter content had fantastic hits, don't worry that that did happen. I mean, that's great, and sort of learn from it, but don't kick yourself or beat yourself up about the fact that in the past it's there is always changes and it's ups and downs. So on the left, you've got this is for a tester page that I made for Assembly. So the fact that it's got kind of like all zeros is fine, because actually I'm not doing anything with the page, but I just wanted to share the types of things that you could see. So post reach, post engagement, new page likes, new page followers, reactions, comments, shares, photo views, link clicks, hide all posts, and unfollows. They're kind of, those last two are useful to see, but it's sort of all you really need to know is the numbers, and reflecting sort of every month, kind of, has it gone up, has it gone down, either significantly, because there may be something that happened, and over July and August you have kind of hundreds of likes or sort of a significant leap, and actually it's because suddenly you're engaging a lot more with the community, and other community pages are sharing your content, and suddenly it's reaching more people. So actually it can be just a kind of helpful thing to think about, what have we got going on here, but actually what's our context and community going on. So you can go deeper into it, but to be honest, that is all you just really need to see, and reflecting on it monthly, that's how often they kind of renew, is quite good, and I think it gives you kind of a nice cycle. On the right hand side, if we get a kind of sneaky behind the scenes glimpse of the BU Facebook page and seeing what's on there. So this is actually for content specific, so you can see certain posts have had, so what's that one? There were many conversations about delegate smaller churches and how to encourage and resource each other more effectively at Baptist Assembly. So that's about small churching. That's had post reach of nearly 1,000 and engagement of 40. Whereas if we look at the third one from the top, so that's the chaplains, that's had about the same. Actually, it's had a little bit less reach, but also that's been slightly less time. So that may be why it's not had sort of as much a reach. Yet it's had nearly double the amount of engagement. Again, thinking about what type of content is it actually? Is it something that connects with more people? Is it likely to have been shared more and have different things going on with it? So that's Facebook. That's just the sort of really the basics of all that we need to be looking at. Then Twitter, and I've included Twitter because I still use it and I enjoy it. I appreciate that for a lot of churches it might not be where you feel it's necessary for your church to be on, but as individuals, or actually maybe your church does have it and you just want to kind of understand what's going on with the page, with the account. Again, they do it in 28-day cycles, and you can see, so I've screenshotted two different bits of the same page, but you can see the sort of the bar across the top shows the amount of tweets I've done, the impressions, profile visits, and that's always quite a useful thing to see of actually how much people are sort of looking into who I am. So this is for my personal Twitter account. How many mentions, and again, that's quite good about thinking, am I engaging and are people engaging with me? And that's my followers there. Twitter's the followers didn't seem to actually go up very much, and I have a lot of unfollows, which is quite kind of sad, but you tend to find more unfollows on Twitter than necessarily on Facebook. And it does also tell you kind of your top tweet, which is quite nice, because again, you can see, oh, actually I can see video links or ones where I've tagged in other people, or I've sort of been talking about a specific topic, is quite helpful. Your top mention, so that's someone talking their tweet that you are mentioned in, and then top media tweet focused with photo or video, I think, in there. So that's quite nice as well, because obviously you can see that my top tweet didn't have any media in, but most of the time actually the media ones will have a bit more engagement because we're now very visual in the content that we consume. And yeah, and then again, it tells you the key stats, and on Twitter, it has it kind of monthly. So you can actually see sort of, oh, we were very active that month and we had a lot of engagement, or we weren't so active, but we still had a lot more. However, again, I appreciate that not a lot of churches do not want to be on Twitter, or sort of it's not necessarily quite the connecting audience, but it is useful to kind of see how their analytics work. Then for Instagram, I'm pretty sure as well you can see it through Meta Business Suite, but I personally like, I do a lot more of my I do all of my Instagram activity within the app itself, because I prefer that experience. And looking at these, so you've got the kind of overview of seeing accounts reached, accounts engaged, and total followers, and then the content that you shared. And that's actually really interesting, of seeing how many posts have done, how many stories, how many reels. I don't think there was anything underneath, but those are kind of the 3 key forms of content on Instagram. It's quite good to see. Actually, I didn't post maybe as many posts as I would like to do, but actually my reel number was going up. And then on the middle, the middle post, it's got you can order it in highest ranked, but sort of the most engagement, and so you can see actually how many times it was played, what the engagement was, so that's the heart, if anyone commented on it, if people have sent it on to someone or shared it, or then if they've saved it. And again, for churches, I think this is really important, at thinking what type of content are we creating that makes people want to share it and want to save it, of is it the type of resource that someone, you know, it's not just like, oh, here's the coffee morning, but actually, is it something that I might want to come back to during my devotional time? And it's got the reach at the bottom of showing whether that's followers and non-followers. And again, I've had a post where I've had sort of quite high numbers of non-followers, but that's not necessarily transitioned into followers, which is a bit sad, but it's sort of just actually interesting of seeing there are different people seeing my content. So actually, what am I putting out there that might reach with people? And then on the right hand side is how you can view the analytics of your stories, which is quite good, sort of checking in if you've got a certain, so say for something like assembly, of seeing actually what's the engagement going on, are people responding, or is it something that actually no one's really looking at on stories because everyone's here and involved in it. I don't know if that was the case, but for sort of something where you've got a high amount of activity going on, it can be quite helpful. And this is really interesting, where it's got the yes and no of, I put in a poll of, am I a bit of a, I think my question was, is Hannah a snob for bringing her own tea equipment to a conference I'm currently working at, because I had to have some loose leaf tea. But it was a funny thing of just getting a bit of a response from people, and it's really interesting to see if you had stuff that was regular and seeing sort of who's engaging and how many people were engaging. I hope that makes sense for Instagram. Again, I think you can kind of look at your analytics within Meta Business Suite, but I don't think it's as easy to understand, because this is very easy to find, and it's very easy then to kind of click through and view it. And then YouTube. So again, this is my personal channel. And just then we've got this left-hand screenshot and then right-hand screenshot. So this will be the if you're on business YouTube Studio, and then on the left-hand side, there's analytics, and you can choose between kind of an overview, content, audience, or research. To be honest, the overview is all you pretty much need to see I think I'd say for most churches' cases. But it's really interesting of seeing sort of your views, your watch time, subscribers. Again, this is monthly done. And then it actually gives you real time of who's watching things, kind of, I think it's 24 hours, last 48 hours. And it can be really interesting to see actually what is your overall most popular video? What are things that are trending right now? So if there's something topical, if there's something seasonal or relevant to what people are wanting to consume. And I think it's really important to title your YouTube videos properly, and not just your church name and the days, but actually answering those questions, because that is what people will see and that is what people will be searching for, and therefore that will be the things that will reach people. But yeah, you can see kind of it goes up or down, and you can change on the top right of that first screenshot. So it says 28 days. You can change it to, I think you could do sort of an actual month, that you can pick the month, but you can also do 60 days, 90 days, 360 and lifetime. So you can look at kind of like actually over the last year. So this is a bit up and down at the moment, but actually probably if I look over the whole year, it's going up because my overall content output has increased. So therefore the engagement and the views and watch time will it be increased? So if I looked at that and went, oh gosh, it's gone really downhill, but actually I've not posted anything for a few weeks. But overall, actually, how does that, how am I reflecting upon the insights? And then this, I think this one's content actually. And keep the top of it on. But again, you see views, impressions, click-through rate, and average view duration. So again, that's really, the view duration is really interesting to think about, because actually people aren't watching for very long. Do we need to make videos shorter, or do we need to think about how we are creating them? Obviously, if it's a service recording or live stream, can't really change how you're doing that, but there may be ways of just sort of changing it slightly that will encourage people to watch for a bit longer. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Is that terribly overwhelming? Yeah, I'd say a thumbs up, that's fine. The thing is as well, it will look kind of difficult, or it is a bit complicated just looking at a screenshot. I'd really just recommend sort of go in and play around and see what you can find. Well, not play around with your analytics, but sort of just, explore and sort of just have an idea of, right, actually, this is how this aligns up. These are the types of things that I can see, but don't let it stress you out too much. This just analytics, don't need to use it, as I said already, it's not sort of as if you're trying to drive sales, or, it's the work that we do is dependent upon that, but it is good indicators and guidance for the type of content that we should be creating. So very quickly, because again, I've already talked for too long, go through social media terms, or and again, I would, it would make a lot more sense being able to show you, but we'd never have enough time in these sessions. So very quickly, and if anyone has any questions for the, we can talk about it in the question time. So hashtags. Hashtags are a form of kind of categorization done through the hashtag symbol and a word. You do not need to be going too niche, but also don't be too broad. So again, I will use assembly as a good example. So if people are at an event, I can't actually remember what the hashtag was. I think I used it and then I kind of didn't really need to think about it anymore, but sort of hashtag BU Assembly or Baptist Assembly 23. And that means that if someone's searching on Twitter, on Instagram, if someone searches hashtag Baptist Assembly 23, so long as you've incorporated that within your tweet or in a comment, it will show up. Hashtags don't need to be used on Facebook because that's not necessarily how the platform sort of content, that's not how people engage with content. But equally, sort of 10 can be quite helpful. It's good if you're looking for your area, for your town, for your county, for your association perhaps. And maybe a key few things like sort of social justice, church family or something like that, but nothing too specific, because actually it's not the type of thing that people will search for. Tags and handles are the actual kind of like @ symbol that will identify your individual profile or page. And then being tagged is where I'm putting a post out looking for, had a great session at the July 1st Friday with @Baptist Union, can't remember, well, depending on which platform it is, with Baptist Union. And that means then that Baptist Union will get notified that they've been tagged, and therefore they can share that content out. But also if anyone follows Baptist Union, it will kind of like come up because of that. So it's a great way of connecting with other people and sort of letting them know that sort of I've tweeted about you, please like and share it. Liking is obviously thumbs up or heart, that's sort of yes, not necessarily an endorsement, but sort of yes, I've connected with this. And a share is then obviously where it is shared on, and that is where the greater reach is made. You have more reach if content is shared. So it's really important, I think, that we encourage our congregations and teams to don't just like something, but actually share it, because it will reach more people. And then reach is the now I've got to get this the right way around. I did just check this. Reach is the amount of people that you see. Hang on 1 second. Oh, this is bad. I've talked now and I've forgotten actually what I'd Right. So reach is the total number of people who see your content, where our impressions are the number of times your content is displayed. So reach is the unique number of people. I always get them confused, but actually it's quite useful to sort of make a note of that within your content sometimes. Then within content creation, you've got I took it out there. Feed. So that is your main feed of, that could be within Instagram. That is the feed that you create. So that is the what comes up on your profile. But it also is kind of like what's in your feed of what is the content that you're engaging with and that comes up when you're search or when you're within the app. Stories is obviously the ephemeral content that Instagram and Facebook do it, where you share it. It be a lot more behind the scenes. It's not necessarily public and permanently on your feed, but it's a great way of sort of building connection and community. And there's kind of like a bit more, this is what I'm up to right now. Live is obviously, and it doesn't just need to be a service. It could be quite fun to do a live if you're decorating the church for for Christmas, or something's happening, a worship evening or something, we're just having a practice, but here you can hear, what goes on and how we practice or how we do this thing within the church. It's a great way of people watching in live time. And what I think a lot of churches don't do, which is understandable because we just don't have the time and resources to be able to do it, that of being able to engage as people can comment and write comments or sort of say, hi, I'm here watching, and you can have a sort of bit more of a dialogue with people. Reels are shorts, generally fun videos that can be done on Instagram, but also it's kind of like TikTok, and they're generally called kind of reel style videos that are and also YouTube shorts, but they kind of all fit within the same category of being vertical videos. Evergreen content is something that will last sort of forever, so something that is not necessarily topical or of the time. So not so much about the chaplain's event, because I mean that's great and that's kind of current and that's something that's happening now and that's really exciting, but actually once the event's over, people aren't really so engaged, whereas they might be more engaged of a post talking about actually what is home mission, because home mission will be something that people will, let's say, forever be asking what it is, but it's something that may be more likely for people to ask questions. Organic is something that you have created yourself, and curated is you have sourced it from somewhere else. This is still me talking now. And then I know I talk. Hang on a second, I need a drink. I've talked too much these last few days, getting croaky very quickly now. Optimizing your platform. I know I talk about this all the time, but I think something that churches really don't seem to sort of connect with so much. And I think actually it's one of the biggest barriers for people engaging for the first time with our platforms. So really, essentially just make sure that there is a consistency across your brand, whether that is sort of a website to Facebook to Instagram or YouTube. Make sure that people can see clearly that it is kind of all the same thing. You're the same organization. There's not kind of like 20 different colors and different photos and different fonts and logos. Make sure that there is a consistency with your brand and appearance. Have up-to-date information. Still seeing, and not just churches, I've seen it in a kind of quite a few businesses at the moment of sort of still having COVID information. And I know COVID is still here, it's not going anywhere, but actually we don't need to be having kind of, please wear a mask, or you don't need to wear a mask, because most places you don't need to wear a mask. I don't think it's quite relevant for us to have it on a homepage or something, because actually that can be more of a sort of something that's off-putting. But have your location and your time and parking and sort of those key informations that people are asking about. And if you've got a parking space now, make sure, or car park, make sure people that actually can know that you've got a car park, because it's quite a big thing to be able to have. Again, quality photos and graphics, and make sure that you're regularly posting. So even if you're not on if you're not massively engaged within one platform, but try to kind of like update it. There are some, I was trying to tag some churches into what was it? Something on Twitter, and they haven't posted kind of since 2020. And I sort of thought, oh, it's such a shame, because actually you have the account, but you're not really using it. So either kind of, if you're not going to use it anymore, just put something up and say, you know, currently this Twitter account or this profile is not being managed. Engage with your audience. So don't just post and sort of don't talk to anyone, respond to comments, engage with other accounts, and add a variety of content, because the same thing, the same words, pretty much copied and pasted, is not engaging for your audiences. Yay, now it's Mike's turn to talk.
Have a breather, Hannah, have a breather.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So yeah, I'm just going to have a couple of minutes just having a look at paid for advertising. And I don't know whether or not those with us and those sort of watching on the recording, whether or not it's something you've actually dabbled in or looked at before, but it can be really helpful. I've been doing paid for advertising now for over 20 years. Long before I was a minister, I was particularly using Google AdWords. It was known at the time there. It's now turned to Google Ads. That in itself is really worth looking at. I'm also going to have a chat to you about particularly Facebook and Instagram, how you can do paid for ads. It's one of those instances where it can really give your social media a boost, a presence where perhaps you've not got one. You may be thinking, we're struggling to build an audience here. We're struggling to get people interested either in people coming to the actual social media page, more likes, or we've got an event on and nobody's coming, those sorts of things. And it can be really helpful in giving that sort of boost. So when I was sort of in local ministry, and I know there was even less people doing it in church sort of back 10 years ago, but I used Facebook advertising for our local church 10 years ago. And that worked really well for local events and to get, a boost to things that we wanted to get out there, and also, to get more likes to the page as well. Now, if you've never come across advertising, what I might try and do, Hannah, in the moment here, it might not work. I'm going to stop your share, if that's all right. I'm going to try and share. I want to show how it might work on Facebook. So I'm hoping that's now appeared. Has that appeared, Hannah? Is that good? So for most of you,
that's all good.
Probably have got a sort of a Facebook page, and if you've also got a linked Instagram account as well, you get two for the price of one. So yeah, that's why I'm sort of showing this now. And basically, whenever you've got your page, I've skipped this moment. So from your actual page on Facebook, you can always there's always on the left-hand side, create ad. And when you create an ad, you come through to this page here. And I just sort of wanted to show you sort of relatively how quickly you can do something here. So going from the top down, this is how you would do it. You've got a goal. What would your goal be for some paid advertising? And it gives you some really good ideas. So, for example, the last lot of paid adverts I did was in the lead up to Baptist Assembly. That's what we did. And I said, I wanted to get more website visitors because I wanted people to click on the Book Now button. That was the purpose of the paid for advertising. So you save that, you go, I want more website visitors. You've then here, you've got your description, come to Assembly. Do something better than that, I would suggest. And then you've got your link, you've got then appropriate images that you would select, as I've sort of got on the screen there. And then, yes, you can actually then have that between that description and baptism. So in fact, I think I probably said, I probably did a variety of different ones. It was sort of mission is ... and I used a headline which I'm hoping would encourage people. You then say, what sort of click would you like? I'd go, I want to book now. That's what I want on there. And then I would actually put our Baptist Assembly booking page there, as I've just sort of highlighted. Special ad category, I don't particularly worry too much about that. It's one of those things where you can put it in a particular ad category if that's important. Otherwise, you can just put it into non-profit, which would be normal. The audience is possibly the most important thing here. So it would depend very much on what you were trying to do here. Is this something about locality or age? So in which case, Is this about getting things to within a certain radius? So I've certainly done that before, where in fact, when I was in Derby, it was actually trying to get people within a 2-3 mile radius of Derby city centre to be interested in it, is what I targeted. And then you can confirm, get rid of that. Otherwise, yeah, you can do as much targeting as you like. It may be about encouraging those who are already like your page, or as one which I use quite a lot is what I use during the assembly build up, people who like your page and people similar to them. So that means that the spread of people that you go to are not only those that like your page, but those that are, may be interested in booking as well. And once you've done all that at the top, you then go through and go, right, when do you want to do it? You choose your days. Is it 7 days? Well, it's disappeared me off there, so maybe 5 days. And then people will often wonder, well, how much does it cost? Well, it will give you, you can spend as much or as little as you wish with that per day. And what I've found is that you can be pretty modest with that. So if you had a campaign and you can put aside, say for a particular event, anything, say around about £50, if that's it, 20, 40, £50, maybe 100. I think I spent about 100, 150 on assembly, but that was because it was a big event. But we aren't talking hundreds of pounds here. And from that, you choose your maximum amount of spend, and then you know how much that's going to be. And then once you're ready, you can click promote now. So I will stop that there. But I just wanted to sort of, sorry about that. I know, Hannah, you'll have to pop the share back on yours. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's all right. Got to find it all now.
So I'll let you do that. We can edit this bit out.
Yeah, there we go. Can you all see the ads?
That's all come back.
Super.
Thanks.
And I think the thing as well with ads is that, again, to try it for something, specific event, but actually might people be more likely to go to something if they see it on Facebook, like as an ad or something alongside other things, a poster by the church or something like that, than just if we just try to leaflet things. It just so is easy. It's so easy for that to slip through and be wasted. Whereas at least with, I just think that the ads are, offer you just something that little bit extra on top of kind of other means of comms within sort of, especially for event promotion. Yeah. So yeah, so do have a kind of play around with that. Then thinking kind of about content ideas, I know I've talked again a lot about these things, but with sort of, again, diversifying and thinking actually what are the types of stories that you want to be sharing throughout your platforms is within thinking about kind of your content pillars, but sort of breaking that down further of going, how do we make it, how do we diversify sort of what we're, let's say, selling that isn't just come to church on a Sunday, but actually how do we really sort of like share who we are and what we believe? And I think that sort of in the first instance is showing more people's faces. It's not as if we're trying to hide something from people, but we seem to be very adverse or sort of reluctant to share what our church family looks like. And that's not to say you need a professional photographer to come every Sunday and take pictures of, worship in the service, but occasionally it might be nice to have sort of a slightly good photographer to take some pictures, but also just sort of going, here are different people, and just take headshots and share stories. So whether that's your leadership, if you've got all your leadership photos up to date, not old photos or not kind of old leadership who's no longer, haven't been here for 5 years. You've got leadership on your website. Do you occasionally share it out of going, if you see this guy walking around, just so you know, he's the minister, make it sort of not make lighthearted, but sort of share something fun, share something sort of interesting, why has he become a minister? What's his favorite song? What's his biscuit? What does he love living in this community? But share kind of your leadership, share your volunteers. It's a lovely way of celebrating sort of the people that serve and really sustain the kind of like living of a church, but by sort of serving it in numerous different ways, whether that is publicly of like welcoming, hospitality or worship, but also then kind of people behind the scenes. So the cleaners, the groundskeepers, the people who sort of, put hours and hours and hours in of the sort of meetings for building or funding, and the kind of like organizational aspect of the church. It's a really lovely way to kind of like say thank you to them or acknowledge them. And then also kind of create those stories of going, actually tell people why we're doing this, what's made us become kind of Christians, what's made us sort of like, why do we gather as a group of people who are sort of wanting to share life together. Then also sort of offer teachings of not just kind of here's the sermon, but actually here are resources that might be helpful within your discipleship time. Here are worship playlists that we've collated this year or this season from different people within the church who might be kind of these are our favorite worship songs right now, these are our favorite Christmas songs right now. Not that we should be doing compiling Christmas songs in July, but it could be quite a fun thing to say, we want to share this out in November, let's start thinking about it in September, and kind of people be outraged, but it would be funny to ask people those questions. And then thinking kind of community of going, actually, what can we celebrate that is going on? So it's not just always about us, but there's a local food bank that's doing amazing work, and we're coming up to the holidays. What holiday hunger challenges might people be facing? How can we serve them? How can we help them? Without this sort of a demand, and that isn't how churches do it, but sort of this sort of like feeling that you have to come to church to receive help. Well, actually, no, we just want to go and do stuff. How can we highlight it? We're sharing the mission of the food bank, or we want to raise money or food. What's the sort of if there's charity works going on, if you know someone in your congregation who's doing lots of runs and sort of sporting activities going on at the moment and challenges and stuff, you highlight someone's running for breast cancer or for BMS or something like that. I think it's a nice way of kind of looking outwards and beyond the church. And when done nicely, I think it can be a really lovely way of kind of bringing the building and online together, of share the story of the building, of, if you've got old pictures, I think it's really lovely when people walk past the church, they kind of get used to it and they know what it looks like. But there's something very kind of like nice and nostalgic about looking at those kind of pictures from 50 years ago, 100 years ago. How were times different, that either the inside or the exterior of the church look different. But also sort of what goes on during the week. Actually, do you tell people the different things that you've got? What does the building see? Who comes through the buildings on not just a Sunday? So yeah, and then sort of in terms of your forms, again, mix it up. So written, it can be nice to sometimes have very longer form content of sort of reflections or interviews, or sort of longer kind of semi blog posts within predominantly a Facebook post. Obviously you can't do it on Twitter, but sometimes as well, just a sort of a sentence or two, or just an emoji to go alongside something can be appropriate and can be a great way to connect with people. You've got kind of single photos and graphics, but also collections of photos and graphics. So if you've got an event on, share one or two photos kind of immediately, but then a couple of days later, share the album, share quite a few. If you've got graphics, it doesn't need to be a poster, it might be appropriate printed and on the wall somewhere, because people will have the time to look at it. But maybe actually for online, you could break it into kind of like 4 individual graphics that have the time and the date, the location, FAQs, and then links, a link to booking. And actually that creates a kind of like a bit more of a ooh, what's this? I need to find out more. I'm going to engage. And therefore actually there feels like there's a lot more of an engagement from the analytical perspective of usage. Video. So we've got kind of the longer form of like either a live stream or a full video from a service, but also try and try and experiment with short form content of going, oh, here's a time lapse of walking around the church because we've recently done the gardens for summer, or we've recently had this building works, with the scaffoldings come down. We do that. Can you do like a 30-second video from church on Sunday of going, what did people really enjoy today? And just have sort of people really quickly saying something, and it can be very easy to compile then. And it just be then shared out across most of the platforms you can do that, and that can be a vertical video that doesn't need to be highly edited and highly created, but just something that sort of connects with people a lot more, because there's lots of faces and there's lots of activity going on. Again, the kind of like resharing other people's content and sharing links. So the links can be your own. So if you've got content going on your website of actually telling people when things are updated. So, oh, we've added this summer kids activity page that's updated with everything that's going on. Or, oh, here's a link to this, you know, local council page where they've got the list of things, you know, affordable activities or additional support for those who need it. Or here's a link from Baptist Union from the photos from Assembly, to which last time I checked, I wore my bright pink shirt and I have not seemed to have appeared in a single photo, which I'm like a little bit upset about. But that could be a really nice thing again, because maybe it's not that loads of your congregation have gone to Assembly, but it's a lovely way of people seeing actually what does go on there, so that when we talk about it for next year, people go, oh, cool, I kind of have an idea of what to expect. And again, sharing other people's content is a really lovely way of kind of endorsing, just supporting each other. And sort of then there's a bit more of a kind of cyclical responsiveness of people sharing yours when you share something important out. This is you, Mike, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, okay. So we've mentioned this several times for those that have been sort of watching these videos or joining our First Friday. It's about sort of, for me, I think it's about the ethos of the church here. And this is sort of like a fundamental thing. And yeah, you can build a sort of a traditional team around this, but I want to give you another idea about that in a minute. I think it's far more important that the church as a whole has the ethos of listening to the community, that it has an ethos of prayer, that it has an ethos that everybody can be creative and can add to that ethos of listening and prayer, that people can take it in turns to manage certain things. People can provide resources at different times. This has just sort of come out of a conversation that sort of had this morning. We know that there is a culture in church where, you know, you sign up for something and that's it. You are there until you go and meet the good Lord, type of thing. But I've always been somebody who's loved Parkrun, and I think the Holy Spirit's there every Saturday, and I'm part of our local sort of core team, and I'm a run director. But they do a just-in-time process with their volunteering and their roles, including a weekly photographer. Okay, and they post hundreds of photos each week. But each week there are 30 to 40 roles to fill every week. And every Monday morning, we start with nobody doing anything. And by the following Saturday, it's filled. And that means that there's not one person that's ever doing the photography, not one person doing a run report. There's not one person being a marshal. It's trusting that, in fact, there's a rotation and a fluidity to those that are taking part. And I would love that to happen in churches. It would be a complete change to how most churches run, where you sign up and you think, wow, I'm going to be here for a term of at least 3 years or something like that. Now, clearly, as a diaconate or an eldership, there may be some more formal elements to that. But I think the rest of it can be far more just in time, can be far more fluid. But if the ethos of the church is one where you are saying we are here and we are listening to our community, people can contribute to that at anywhere along the way. So I think that photography example is great. Yeah, have somebody each week who's going to take photos in church. Yeah, I know there's permissions, there's some safeguarding elements to look at, but we do that with Parkrun every week, and every week there's a different photographer. Some people might do it in a few weeks. There's a different person that does the run report each week, but all of that goes on to Facebook and is shared and helps build the following. So it's just a different way of doing that. Get it part of your church's foundation and way of being, that listening particularly, and then things will follow on from that. Hannah, I think we're on to the home straight with a bit of a wind.
Onto the last slide. This one we said we would be quicker with. Yeah, I can. I'm going to say this on everything. I know I say this all the time, but sort of be intentional about every post. How does it serve your church and your mission and your community? I think as Christians, the priority of design and communications and sort of how we present ourselves sometimes isn't a priority because we have so many other things that we want to do, and I do understand that, but at the same time I think there's, as Christians, you know, I don't think the devil has the monopoly on good design, and we have a wonderful creator, the ultimate creator, and we should be wanting to emulate that, and so we should be holding our content to a higher standard and not accepting that not everything should get posted or needs to get posted. There are ways of sort of doing it appropriately, and that is reflective of your church's brand and mission and voice that it has to share. I think we do need to be doing better in presenting ourselves online and just being online. You know, if we aren't there, then it does become this horrible negative place, and I think that actually we need to be obviously sort of salt and light in those places. And as well of thinking about how in sort of the probably more on the personal bits, but I think sort of that, does it represent God of what we're posting, so that if actually we're writing sort of, or it can get back to the church is not necessarily trolling, but there is sort of links from accounts that are involved in this, of actually I don't think that's representing God, so we need to be appropriate in how we present ourselves online. So next time, that one will be the August one, not this one. If you're coming in August, this is an ideal time to put some of the stuff that we've talked about over the last 3 months and kind of longer, because actually these, well, the whole last 6 months of sort of theory into practice, and actually how you're going to apply it for the next 6 months. And we kind of have last minute sort of decided, because next month's one is preparing for the new season. If anyone would like to be a guest contributor and have a bit of a live consultation where we could talk through a few bits, or if you're open to in the recording time, say, here are some questions that I want to ask, to be able to do that in that session. So if anyone is interested, email either Mike or myself and we can sort that out. If no one does, then we'll have to go back to the original plan, but it would be kind of fun to do something that's helpful to someone, but also able to put it into kind of a bit more context. So thank you for joining us. We will do the slides and handouts be emailed. What we're on for today, Friday next week, and that will be done. But we will see you otherwise on Friday the 4th, where we will be looking at preparing for the new season. Thank you ever so much.